Okay, I think I figured out the American League West. I really think oh God, what the hell is happening now?
You are Locked On MLB. Your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Ball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. If you don't believe me, there's my lower third. How can I get that? It says Sully. I am an Emmy-nominated television producer who has been a baseball podcaster for well over a decade now, and we're wrapping up my fifth full season here at the Locked On Podcast Network. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever the hell it's called now, and Instagram. You can follow me. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on that mysterious Twitter feed. Sully Baseball Podcast and Instagram. Please help us achieve our goal of getting 1 billion subscribers by the end of the week. We're getting there. We're several hundred million short. Hey, for those of you who are watching us on the YouTubes, you will see that I am not alone. Much like the Close Encounters of the Third Kind claim, we are not alone. I am not alone. On the show with me again, a lot faster. You've returned a lot faster than I thought you're going to be on a return, unexpectedly quick return guest. Mystery guest, sign in, please.
I'm Bryce Patrick, host of the Locked On Rangers podcast. Yeah, I thought I was going to be shrinking away and never wanting to talk about my Rangers on a national show again. But here we are, a team that we both have always believed in very fervently from the beginning of the season. Definitely no doubt as recently as 5 days ago.
Well, no one has been screaming from the top of the hills about my belief in the Texas Rangers from the opening day. Right up until a few weeks ago, I had one of my most downloaded videos, of which the thumbnail had the headline "Texas Fold 'em." When they didn't realize the games against the Astros counted, and it was an absolute butt whipping. A recent surge by the Texas Rangers, mixed with a stubbing of the toe by the Seattle Mariners, and an inexplicable series loss in Houston to Oakland. Wait, they're in Houston, right?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. All with fewer than 20 games less to play.
With Framber Valdez and Justin Verlander on the mound.
Yeah.
Mind you.
And Valdechuk, who I think is one of the characters. Waldechuk. Yeah,
he was in the Frankie Montas trade.
And also one of the characters of What We Do in the Shadows. And he threw 6 no-hit innings out of the bullpen. I can't figure it out. Neither can you. Hey, before we cannonball right into the AL West, we have a couple of pieces of business to get into. My trivia question from the other day was, which former Rookie of the Year was the first person to ever manage the Seattle Mariners to a winning record in a season? And I got several people guessing former Rookie of the Year and the person who led them to the postseason, Lou Piniella. But alas, I tripped you up on that question. And a couple of people got it right, including John Murphy Jr. and Court Stell and Mark Fahey. My Craig Brindle, who guesses all the time and almost always right in the trivia. You got this one wrong, buddy. You guessed Lou Piniella, but John Murphy Jr., Court Stell, Mark Fahey, and a couple other people all guessed the correct answer was Jim Lefevre. Jim Lefevre, former Dodger Rookie of the Year from the '65 World Series champ, was part of Tony La Russa's. Was a Tony La Russa lieutenant. Took over, was Ken Griffey Jr.'s first manager in 1989. They handed out shirts at spring training that says, "I'm a Lefevre believer," with a VRE spelling. And in 1991, led the Seattle Mariners to their first ever winning record. They had been around since 1977, had tons of talented players, but couldn't get above 500 until 1991. He was rewarded for his effort by being fired. That's baseball. But there you go. Also, what wasn't baseball was what the Boston Red Sox did today. They stranded 43 runners today. 43 runners in 9 innings.
Is that an exaggeration?
Yes, because that's not mathematically possible.
I thought it was between the two. They had a doubleheader.
They did have a doubleheader, so maybe I should have made that clear. Every inning was runner on first and second, nobody out. And the Red Sox played such an idiotic brand of baseball. They had Rodon on the ropes. Rodon let up 1 run in like 5 or 6 innings and struck out, I think, 48 batters in those 5 innings. And
actually, it was 76 batters.
Oh, 70, and the same number of trombones in the Music Man. And the fact of the matter is, yeah, I totally stole that from Jimmy Pardo. I copyright Jimmy Pardo, never not been funny. The fact of the matter is the Red Sox played as stupid a game as I've ever seen. How many times do I have to see, okay, runners on second, nobody out, swing and a miss? Like, how many times? Put the ball in play. And then the Red Sox had the bases loaded, 1 out, a base hit would have won the game, a walk would have tied the game. Clay Holmes was throwing the ball all over creation, first pitch swinging, double play. God forbid you let him throw you a strike. You know, I understand there's a lot of advanced metrics that say things like don't bunt, don't give yourself up. I understand that. But it's when you're having a hard time scoring runs, and you have a runner on second base and nobody out, don't you want to, I don't know, put the ball in play? Because one way you're not going to score a run, and I figured this out, if I had the metrics to show it, is striking out. Whiff, 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 whiff. Put the freaking ball in play. So they're now tied with the Yankees, and I know the games don't mean anything, but it's like, and basically, there were 2 minor league teams wearing Red Sox and Yankee uniforms. They are number 87 versus number 83.
Hey, speaking of minor leaguers and guys with weird numbers, I do want to give a shout out to Ceddanne Rafaela, a top young rookie prospect who did have his first home run in the game, and it was off of Carlos Rodon.
But the only way the Red Sox can score is if they hit it out of the ballpark. Because if you're asking someone, you'd have runner on third, nobody out, and the pitcher throws it into the dirt 5 times in a row, and somehow they can't figure out a way to score. Okay, enough about that. We did the trivia question. Let's talk about a little bit about the West. We're going to talk real specifically about the Rangers in segment 2, but it wasn't that long ago that the Rangers were on the outside looking in. After looking like there would be a 98-win team, they had the absolute cataclysmic collapse, which I know I don't have to remind you of. And just a week or so, I was like, we were all singing Taps. You know, we were all saying, you know, this is it. What a disaster. I was comparing this to the 2011 Red Sox. Then, you know, before you can even have any idea what's going on, the Rangers are on this wild winning streak. But more importantly, the 2 teams they're chasing are losing games stupidly. They're losing games at extra inning at home. They're losing teams to the A's at home. The A's are now past the Royals because of how they're beating the snot out of the freaking Astros. Before we start heaping praise on the Rangers, this comeback by the Rangers also is imperative that they have the 2 teams in front of them failing. What is going on here with these 2 teams that the Rangers are chasing and very well may catch?
Well, with the Astros, I have no idea. I thought once the Astros went on that tear, I mean, we all saw how that was the worst beatdown in a 3-game series, like maybe ever. Like it was just, it could not have gone any worse for the Rangers and the Mariners. For
a series that important. For a series that important, yes, it's right up there. Yeah,
well, like the historic numbers of like the amount of runs given up, the amount of home runs given up. I mean, Jose Altuve hit like I think literally 6 home runs in a 3-game series against the Rangers, like by himself, and they averaged 5 1/3 home runs given up per game.
Yeah,
it was bad. And the Mariners, their offense really struggled at times getting runners in when they had runners in scoring position. And the same thing that you were complaining about the Red Sox and the Mariners team, they had some real struggles with bases loaded situations, especially bases loaded no outs. They had a bases loaded no out situation in the bottom of the 9th inning in that extra inning game that they lost to the Angels. I was watching very closely. They had bases loaded no outs in a game where the Angels should have taken the lead multiple different times. They had a runner on second base or on third base who didn't tag up, and then just a play that it should have scored the go-ahead run. And the Mariners just could not get it done. In the last couple weeks, while the Rangers were free falling like into the abyss, the Mariners have been struggling for not just this week, but a week before that as well. They've got a really tough go of a lot of games, 13 games in a row, including a road trip to Cincinnati against the Rays, where they lost 3 out of 4. I mean, there's no shame in losing 3 out of 4 at the drop. Everybody does that. But dropping that one last night to the Angels, that felt like just an absolute just gut punch for this Mariners squad that is supremely talented. But they have a lot of really great young starting pitchers, but they're coming to their innings limits. They are, kind of coming up against it, and their bullpen, which is incredibly good. And I would kill to have the Mariners bullpen, even their bullpen that I thought was maybe the best in baseball heading into the season, is really giving up some just real bad leads.
Well, remember the Mariners had the greatest month in their history in August. They won 21 out of 27 games in August, and they went 17-9 in July. So it's like, oh, they're on a roll. Now, right now, as we're recording this, Seattle has an 8-0 lead over the Angels. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say the Mariners have a decent chance of holding on to that lead. If they do hold on to that lead, do you know what their record in September will be?
It's not good, is it?
4-8. 4-8. They'll have lost if they hold on to this lead, and this is going to be an old-fashioned thrashing. They still will have lost twice as many games as they have won. And there was an extra inning loss last night. They had 2 walk-off losses, as you mentioned, one to Cincinnati and one in the walk-off home run by Diaz.
One of the ones to Cincinnati, they were up, what was it, 5-0 at one point? Yeah. And they ended up losing 6-7.
They lost a series to the Mets, who have stopped trying. They lost a series to Cincy. They lost a series to Tampa. Now, it looks like they're going to win this game, but if they lose tomorrow afternoon, then they'll have lost a series to the Angels. And, oh, look who they're playing after that. Los Angeles, the Dodgers. I mean, this is a brutal gauntlet. And then after that, they're playing the A's, who, as we've seen, could be the best team in baseball. And after that, it's nothing but Rangers, Astros after that. So they've got a little bit of a gauntlet. The assumption that the Mariners are in the postseason, don't assume that.
Yeah, no, and I was losing my mind losing one game to the A's, because going into that series, you had the day off after those 3 games, but the Rangers went into that series against Houston, having won on a walk-off home run by Adolis Garcia, just the most cathartic walk-off home run I think I might have ever seen. The guy was in a really rough way, and he needed that home run as bad as anybody. And you get that walk-off home run, and you have that back-and-forth battle in the first game. The Rangers weren't just completely throttled in the first game. They were in it. They kept battling back, and Corey Seager had a multi-home run game. He's been incredible. But the bullpen just completely blew it open. And then they got their doors blown off in the second game. And then big Scherzer Verlander, that's the matchup. And then Scherzer just got his teeth kicked in. And Verlander was really good. And you go into that weekend series against the A's, like, all right, you can get right here. But the Raiders hadn't swept the A's all season. They'd won every single series against the A's, but they had never swept them. And you think, okay, this is the time you have to do it. And then Evan Carter comes up, makes his big league debut on Friday, all excited. You got Jordan Montgomery on the hill. He's one of your better starters. And the Rangers bullpen blows it. Actually, it was more of a Jordan Montgomery kind of blowing it in that one. But the Rangers lose that first game. You're on a 4-game losing streak. You're 3 games out of the AL West. You think, oh, dear God, there is no way anyone's riding the ship. Even Bruce Bochy, I don't know, even literally Bruce Bochy, who's the greatest manager in the last 10 years in Major League Baseball. Even he can't right this ship, surely. And then here they are on a 4-game winning streak with the hot mess that has been the Mariners and Astros in the last couple of days. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready for the NFL season with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Now is the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use. You can bet on everything from spreads to player props and more. If you're an NFL fan, if you are living in the Dallas area, you're one of those Cowboys fans nationally that believe this is your year. If you're ready to be heard again and to put your money where your mouth is, then go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
All right. Well, we're here with Bryce Patrick of Locked On Rangers. I'm Sully from Locked On MLB. We're doing what's known in the industry as a crossover. I need to just reiterate the fact that you have to give the Rangers a ton of credit, because if they had folded up the way that, remember a couple of years ago when you went in September and the Mets and the Padres had winning records going into September and were playoff contenders. Now, it helped the fact that St. Louis went on a wild winning streak that secured one of the wild card spots, but the Padres and the Mets started to slump, and then they had disastrous Septembers to the point where they both finished 500, under 500. I don't think anyone would have blamed or would have been stunned if that would have been the fate of the Texas Rangers this year. We've talked about how just dreadful the Seattle has played recently and how stupid the Astros have played recently. The Rangers going on a 4-game winning streak at this point is exactly what the doctor ordered. And what has been the biggest factors of the turnaround of the last week or so?
Really, it's the offense. I mean, this offense was the best in baseball for the first 2 months of the season until the Braves were kind of like lollygagging around the first couple of months of the season. I mean, Ronald Acuna Jr. was being amazing, but the rest of their offense and Austin Riley and Matt Olson and everybody else wasn't quite up to speed of what they've been doing. I mean, Michael Harris was just in a really rough way for the first couple of months. And then literally everybody in their entire offense just became the best versions of themselves and stayed that for basically the rest of the season, while the Rangers came back down to earth. But this offense, when it was at its best, it was full of a very deep lineup of everybody in there is going to give you a quality at bat. It's going to work deep counts. It's not going to be a lineup full of everybody's going to hit 40 home runs, but everybody's going to give you a really quality at bat, and everybody is going to, do their best to pass the baton and trust the guy behind them. The Rangers had 5 all-stars in their lineup. And, for the last couple of months, they have been without basically their 4, 5, and 6 hole hitters for the entire season. Josh Young's injury was kind of where everything started going awry. It was at the end of an 8-game winning streak, or in the middle of an 8-game winning streak in early August. People forget that the Rangers were one of the best teams in baseball in early August. They had an 8-game winning streak. They won 12 out of their first, actually, I think it was 14 out of their first 16 games in the month. And then they had injuries to Jonah Heim. They had Adolis Garcia just not quite being the same version of himself. Jonah Heim not being the same version of himself whenever he got off the IL. And then they had this injury to Adolis Garcia. Again, the Rangers had 6 all-stars this year, and they have had 5 of them sustain major injuries. Corey Seager is going to miss what I think he might end up playing, if he plays every single game until the end of the season, 118 games on the year. And he is a guy who probably might finish second or third in MVP voting. Marcus Semien is the only one who hasn't had a major injury. And we'll see if Adolis Garcia even gets back at the end of the year. And that's not even counting the injury to Jacob deGrom. And we'll see what happens with Max Scherzer and this most recent injury. I mean, we're going to have an MRI on him tomorrow. A triceps strain right tricep spasm is what Max Scherzer left this game with. So he had some issues before. He had a forearm thing that he was dealing with the last couple of starts. He left a game against Minnesota where he had 6 shutout innings with just 1 hit, and the Rangers bullpen, surprise, surprise, they blew that game and lost it. And then the game where he got shellacked by Houston, he was still dealing with that same thing. He wasn't going to use that as an excuse. He's like, everybody's dealing with crap this time of year. So, but long story short, the Rangers got their top prospect, Evan Carter, in the lineup, hitting 9th pretty much every game that there's a righty on the mound. And while he is not Adolis Garcia, he is not going to hit what would have been, he was on pace for a 40 bomb season. He's going to give you really quality at bats, and he is just 21 years old, and he only has 8 games in AAA. and he only has 1 season plus 6 games last year in Double-A. But the kid is so incredibly advanced beyond his years. He's 21 years old. Talking to him, you think this guy's like 30. I mean, he's already married. Like he already just has his life together so much more at 21 than I did, which is almost more impressive than how good he is at baseball.
I found it's a pretty low bar to have your life more together at 21 than you.
I was
By the way,
fine.
okay, I was a mess. Hey, by the way, you just rattle off all those injuries that they've had to their all-stars, to their ace, Jacob deGrom. Quick note to the Super Halo brothers who have been on me for not for being too harsh on the Angels for having 7 straight losing seasons. That this one was clearly a fluke because of the injuries they had. It's funny how other teams can have injuries and still stay above 500.
And the
Um,
Astros too. I mean, the Astros don't feel bad for the Rangers at all. I mean,
yeah,
they don't feel bad even the slightest bit. And even the Mariners. I mean, they've been pretty lucky with injuries, honestly, outside of the Kelnick stupid foot kicking injury. But they lost Robbie Ray, who was a Cy Young winner. I mean, he pitched like a month this year.
no, but only the Angels have really had bad injury issues. Let's just let them.
They've got it hard enough, Sully. They leave them out of those poor guys.
I know they're practically the only team in the AOS we're not going to bring up today because we've been brought up the A's and how well they're playing. The only time we brought them up is bringing up how badly the Mariners are taking them to the woodshed this evening. Yeah, so I have to be honest with you though. Whenever I hear anything like, such and such felt a teensy weensy mild discomfort in his arm today, and then we find out the next day that they're biting down on a piece of wood, they have to saw his arm off. I mean, it's like, it's you're all of a sudden you're in a Civil War infirmary where they just drink some brandy, it'll go through faster, son.
Well,
It's
after the
like,
last start for sure, I'm honestly just glad that he made this start, because after the last one, I thought oh, he's dealing with a forearm thing. It's gonna be Tommy John. He's gonna retire. Just punt this franchise into the sun. Next year's screwed too. It was DEFCON. What was it? 5-1. Yeah, 1. We were at, even though DEFCON, we retired that system with Jacob deGrom having the Tommy John surgery in May or June, whenever the heck it was. It's been such a long year, man.
it has been. Okay, let's talk a little bit about our friends at Jase Medical. Modern medical care and treatment are important, but our global supply chains, they're fragile. Things like pandemics, natural disasters, and foreign aid, they may cut you off from the treatment that you need. Jase Medical is your solution. And guess what? It can be done online. All right? People may be in situations where they're cut off from the doctors, they're cut off from the medications they need, and they can't get appointments for days. Well, with all the barriers in front of you, Jase Medical creates your solutions. Go online, fill out a form, then you can get prescription life-saving medication delivered right to your door. The Jase case gives you peace of mind so that you're not just hoping that you have access to the medication in an emergency. Jase Medical makes sure you have the medication in hand. Save more than $360 by getting these life-saving antibiotics with Jase Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using code LOCKEDON at checkout on jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. All right, we're here, our final segment with Bryce Patrick of Locked On Rangers. So, Bryce, the last couple of weeks of the last 11, 12 games of the year it's just going to be banana boats in the American League West. I mean, I mentioned the fact that the Seattle Mariners have 7 games left head to head with the Texas Rangers. And there's, the Mariners have games head to head with Houston, and who else?
Yeah, their last 10 games, 7 of the last 10 games are against the Rangers. Oh, and the middle 3 in between those 2 series with the Rangers, that's against Houston.
Yeah, and
who else
does Texas play down the stretch?
So Texas has Cleveland coming up this weekend, and then they have a series against. You're putting me on the spot. Just a second. They've got. I forgot who it is. I think they're done with all of their easy series. But they've got. I know Cleveland's next. Oh, and
Don't
then
call anyone easy. The
Boston.
Astros circled the
You're
A's on
right.
the schedule.
Okay, so it's this 4-game series in Toronto, 3 games at Cleveland, then 3 games at home against the Red Sox. Then 7 of the last 10 are against the Mariners. So, the 22nd through the 24th, that's at home against Seattle. Then 3 games in Anaheim, and then they finish the season with 4 games in Seattle. So,
well, I think this series coming up against Toronto is absolutely crucial for the Rangers when you consider they're just to punch a postseason ticket.
I mean, with this
Because
win, they took the season series tiebreaker. Like they
Right.
won 2 out of 3 in their last series against Toronto, which, in case people have forgotten or weren't paying attention, that series was Father's Day weekend, and one of the wildest games that the Rangers had won. I mean, John Gray he had skipped a start because he had been dealing with, I think that was one of the games where he had gotten like 114 or whatever mile an hour liner off his leg, skipped a start, came back, and just was not the same. Didn't end up having to spend any time on the IL, but he pitched like an inning and a third and gave up like 7 or 8 runs. And the Rangers came back and won that game to win the series. And now, because of that, and because of these 2 wins, they have the tiebreaker against the Blue Jays, which might end up being very important.
Well, my advice is just win the games outright. You don't have to worry about the tiebreaker. Just finish with a better record than them, because in many ways the Rangers have bigger fish to fry. Because as of this recording, thanks to the Oakland A suddenly thinking that Reggie Jackson has showed up again, the Rangers are not only 1 game back in the standings, they're tied in the loss column at this point. So you could say in some ways they've caught them. And the Astros have played 2 more games. They've won those 2, but you can add wins. You can't take away losses.
Well,
So,
I will unfortunately push back because the Rangers have lost the season series to the
Fair
Astros.
enough.
Unfortunately, the only way they could have done that, it's really unfortunate because a lot of the games the Rangers lost to the Astros. There was a series in Houston that was back in, I believe that was either late July, early August, where the Rangers just outplayed Houston in all 3 of the games, but they lost 2 one-run games, and then they clobbered them in the series finale. But they needed to sweep that series last week against the Astros to have the season series win and the first Silver Boot series win since, I believe, 2016. But we all know how that wins.
Well, and also bring this up. I brought this up every single year. Don't lose those dumb games at the beginning of the year. Everyone's going to lose games. Obviously, it's a 162 game season. The best teams in baseball are going to lose 60 something games, but don't lose those dumb games, because those are the ones when you start looking back, just what you did right now. When you're looking back and say, "Oh God," like April, May, June, July, August, September. If you take away 1 dumb loss every month, you can tack 6 games on your win column. You're going to lose games. You'll be outpitched sometimes. Some days you just won't have it. But if you go, we had to, if only we did it, avoid those games all year long. Don't play dumb. It's, we're looking at how tight, like 1 game in the loss column is going to separate the Astros, the Rangers, and the Mariners. And if you start winning some of those games earlier, you don't have to worry about tiebreakers. Oh, it drives me crazy when I was like, it doesn't matter. It's early. They all count.
Well, the Rangers did a good job of winning early because they won 5 out of their first 6 against the Mariners. And so I think they would have to win 2 or maybe 3 of those 7 games against the Mariners to get the season tiebreaker. And that series against Seattle was one of my favorite of the season, honestly. But it was in early June. It was when the Rangers were just at the peak of their power, and they just absolutely obliterated the Mariners in 3 games in Arlington. And there was a column written, I believe it was in the Seattle Times, about how the Mariners basically just saying the Mariners have no chance in the AL West. The Rangers are just way better than them, and they're going to run away with it. So, like, maybe you hope for a wild card. And as soon as I saw that, I thought, oh no, the Mariners are about to go on one of those just insanely hot runs again. Why'd you write that? Please take it back. And here we are in September, and they did go on that run. And while the AL West might end up being out of reach, unfortunately, it's not the Rangers who have run away with it. The Astros got a little bit of a lead, and we'll see if the Mariners can do the Rangers some favors, beat up on the Astros in the season or in the last series that they have left against them. And maybe, after all, the Rangers can win their first AL West title since 2016. Honestly, with the way it was about a week ago, I was hoping for just a winning record, and now I'm getting greedy, man. I want
Get
it
greedy.
all.
This is the time to get greedy. There's fewer than 20 games to go. Well, Bryce Patter, before we wrap up here, let's ask our trivia question. In honor of you, I have made it a Rangers-centric trivia question. Now, I mentioned before that the Rangers won their first ever postseason game in their first ever postseason appearance. In 1996, they won Game 1 of the division series with a complete game effort from John Burkett. Now, it took a while for the Rangers to win a postseason game after that, and it took even longer to get a home win in the postseason. However, who was the first person ever to record a postseason save for the Texas Rangers? What pitcher came out of the bullpen and recorded the first ever save in Texas Rangers postseason history? That's the trivia question. Put it down here in the YouTube comments. Put it at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter and Instagram, or you put it at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Bryce Patrick, tell people where they can listen to your show.
I could tell you the wrong guy. It's not going to be Aroldis Chapman that got that first save. Oh, goodness. You can find me on Twitter or X or whatever at Bryce Patrick. You can find Locked On Rangers wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. We are also several 100 million subscribers short of 1 billion. We're also going. I don't know if we'll beat you, Sully, but it's going to be a race for the ages.
That's true. That's true. You can follow us at Locked On MLB Pods and all the places I mentioned earlier, whether you're on Twitter or on Instagram. Talking about the always reliable, always predictable, never let you down Texas Rangers with Bryce Patrick of Locked On Rangers. This has been a Locked On Rangers, Locked On MLB crossover. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.